Something is strengthening. Can you see it a little like on the most recent satellite loop? What does the center look like?
All right, good evening, folks. I'm meteorologist Ross Mumo, joined here.
I'm meteorologist Lee Southwick. You are seeing us nerd out over this system. We're going to do a little analysis for you all.
Yes, a little First Coast News weather update on what is currently Tropical Storm Debby, soon to probably be Hurricane Debby.
Likely winds up to 70 miles an hour now. And we were just looking at the center of this storm. It looks like it's really getting its act together, unfortunately. Like, we don't want to see this really starting to strengthen before it heads towards the Big Bend region. Yeah,
you can see all the lightning starting to fire up there just in the north of the Tampa Bay area. Now, across the First Coast, a few lightning strikes, but really the strongest part of the storm is still now well off to our southwest. But you mentioned 70-mile-per-hour winds. Moving pretty slowly, though, only at about 12 miles per hour to the north. So Debby is just kind of creeping along up into the Gulf, continuing to strengthen here.
Not all of it not good, because already, as you mentioned, it's stronger, it's still strengthening, and it's slower. So, of course, that gives it more time over the warm Gulf water to continue to strengthen and get its act together. And it's moving slower, so it's going to creep over the First Coast longer and bring us more of those impacts, especially the flooding risk that will continue through at least Tuesday for parts of our area.
Yeah, at least. I mean, we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but we saw some of the models showing some of the rain, especially across southeast Georgia, could last through Tuesday, maybe even into Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Because especially once you get past Tuesday and into the middle of the week, the forecast cone kind of is up in the air a little bit on where this thing's going to end up tracking.
It really just kind of slows down, stalls the models. I don't know if you have the spaghetti plots.
I don't have that in here, but
it's wild, you guys. It goes everywhere. It's really uncertain past Tuesday, but at least for us, what we know is that we are going to see impacts through Tuesday. At least it's a little bit more certain for the First Coast, so we know really what to expect here Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, and a lot of us have already seen some of the impacts. We've seen a lot of rain come through, some of which has been heavy. We've also had multiple tornado warnings. We had potentially a confirmed tornado down northwest of Worthington Springs in western Union County, I believe.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have that there. So we do have a reporter that's going to see if he can get some more information on that. But I really hope everyone's okay down there.
So everyone across the First Coast, northeast Florida, southeast Georgia, we are all included in that tornado watch. So that's why it's shaded in yellow. That is in effect from right now until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, I believe, right, Lee?
Yes, and I think it could even be extended for parts of our area past 6 a.m. So earlier we had the tornado watch go till 8 o'clock, and we knew it would likely be extended. Here we are. I'm saying don't let your guard down, or think you can start to relax at 6 a.m. tomorrow, because unfortunately we'll really just be getting into the thick of things at that point.
Yeah, we have a long way to go here.
Unfortunately.
So this is kind of what the worst of the radar looks like for the time being. So next band starting to roll its way through from Flagler in St. Johns County, St. Augustine, seeing some pretty heavy rain there, up through Clay County, Green Cove, and then through Union, Bradford, Columbia County, starting to move up into Duval.
Yeah,
Baker County here now. So we're going to start to see some heavy rain before too long.
Heads up to those in the downtown Jacksonville area. It looks like you're about to get that steady rain. And once it starts, it does not stop.
It does not. It does not. So rain on the way here. Many of us also included in the tropical storm warning. This just got issued a couple hours ago, Lee?
Yep, 5 o'clock it got issued. No surprise, but what this just means is what we've been telling you. You can have tropical storm conditions likely over the next 24 to 36 hours. And the hurricane warning, right up onto our border, right up onto the Columbia County border.
Yeah, so from Valdosta, Suwannee County, the whole way down into the Big Bend, all included in that hurricane warning. So here is the current forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center, what they are currently expecting over the next several days. By overnight tonight, likely strengthening into a Category 1 hurricane, potentially 85-mile-per-hour winds. So we do expect it to make landfall. It does seem to be a little bit later in the day tomorrow now, maybe closer to lunchtime, early afternoon, as a Category 1 storm there in the Big Bend. And then it will weaken once it pushes on shore, but you can see, as we kind of mentioned, Lee, it just slowly works its way across southeast Georgia there.
And what I don't like too is how slowly it shows it weakening, because here we are Tuesday 2 a.m. So we've already gone through Monday. We've been through the impacts all day. Tomorrow is now overnight tomorrow night, and it still has 50-mile-per-hour winds. It's still a decent sized tropical storm.
Yeah, and that whole time we're still getting all that tropical moisture advecting in over us. So still lots of rain the entire time. This thing is just inching its way along.
It's creeping. And one thing I am concerned about too, and I don't know, are you okay if I actually step off screen real quick?
Go.
I would like to pull up the forecast for once it's out over the Atlantic. It's earlier they were showing the possibility of it maybe strengthening a little bit if it hits those warm Atlantic waters. I'm just going to step off the screen. This is the magic of television. You guys get all the behind the scenes, but I'm just going to open this up. So again, this is the 8 o'clock advisory. This is the most recent advisory we have from the National Hurricane Center.
Lee's doing all the work over there. I'm just standing here
So let's
smiling
see.
pretty. There we go. Now we got both of us on here.
Oh, look at this. Hello, everyone. Let me stand a little bit taller for you all. All right, so this is Tuesday, 2 p.m., 40 miles an hour. All right, let's pull up 60. Look at that. So it's saying by Tuesday afternoon, it could perhaps start to strengthen back to about 45 mile per hour winds. 72 hours, 50 mile per hour winds. And then 96 hours out. Let's see, I moved this a little too far up. There we go. Still at 50. And then Friday finally weakening. So we can go back to the WAM. I will walk back over there and join. But yeah, so unfortunately, if it does go back out over the Atlantic waters, over those warm waters and starts to warm up, it could start to strengthen a bit more. And Ross, one thing I am concerned too, that we haven't been talking a whole lot about, if a lot of uncertainty, because again, anywhere in this cone, we know the center could be. So it might not be out over the Atlantic. It might be up towards Macon, Georgia, or wherever. But if it does move out over these warm Atlantic waters, it could start to strengthen. And then I'd be a little bit more concerned about surge for our coastal areas.
Yeah, we've seen, I think it's 1 to 3 for most southeast Georgia counties and Nassau County, I believe, in northeast Florida.
Yes,
correct?
so we have the storm surge alerts only for southeast Georgia right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, Nassau, it's all right up there. So I think it would be safe to assume that maybe a foot of surge, say, for Nassau County as of right now, which again is subject to change depending on where this does track by the middle of the work week.
So the situation is fluid.
Definitely.
A lot of it's going to likely change here over the next, not only a couple of hours, but really potentially, next couple of days. So these are really the biggest impacts that we are looking at here for at least Monday and Tuesday, potentially into Wednesday if this thing does happen to stall out near us and continue to linger around. So heavy rain is certainly the biggest concern here. We're going to touch on that in just a second. Winds also could see, or we have seen wind gusts, I think of like 50 to 55 down near Gainesville already. So we're going to continue to at least be breezy, if not still see some wind gusts, 40 to 50, maybe 60 miles per hour, depending on
Lake City area?
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised to see it.
Yeah, certainly as it comes on shore early tomorrow. Storm surge, as you just mentioned there, and then that isolated brief tornado. We've had multiple tornado warnings in our area already here tonight. The Tampa Bay area has had tornado warnings all day long from early this morning into this evening. They have been very, very busy, so we'll continue to track that here over the next couple of days. And this is kind of just what one model is trying to depict of what may happen here over about the next 24 to 48 hours. So there you can kind of see where they're depicting the eye as it moves on shore tomorrow. That's 7:30 a.m. in the morning, Lee. Yeah,
and again, just one model. Models have been all over the place. Some of them show it coming on shore in the afternoon hours. Some of them show it coming on shore in the morning. But either way, the story here is in the morning and then into the afternoon. Still, the rain still on top of us, not really letting up. And look at that band too. That's where we get that tornado threat within these bands
when you get these bands with just the isolated cells embedded within them.
So the tornado threat, and occasionally in these bands too, you can get that strong gust. So perhaps it depends on where you are. We're thinking maybe the occasional 40 to 50, maybe a severe gust. It's lower risk for those of you in Putnam, Flagler, St. John's, but then the risk of a severe wind gust up to around 60 miles an hour, much higher for those of you in Columbia. And really, as this tracks, and you'll see here on the future radar, as it tracks across southeast Georgia, you can get those punches of very strong wind. And also just keep in mind here, where the heaviest bands seem to still be kind of just traversing and tracking over the same locations, rain and heavy rain at that, training over lots of southeast Georgia counties. So we'll notice here in a couple of minutes just how much it ends up stacking up, because the circulation just keeps spinning around here. So all the way through Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, it just keeps going. Tuesday evening, and occasionally, I think You'll get a break the farther south you are on Tuesday, but most of southeast Georgia not getting a break. And occasionally you can still get the heavier rain bands sweeping back into Nassau, maybe Duval County as well, like you can see here Tuesday evening as well. But we really think Tuesday we are more concerned about southeast Georgia rather than northeast Florida. Yeah, and we mentioned, well, we've talked about it a lot already, the rain. Anywhere from 4 to 8, I think, for much of Duval and the Jacksonville area, really. But if you're in this yellow, 10, 12, maybe locally 15 inches of rain, especially where some of those heavier rain bands and thunderstorms do happen to roll on through. And so that's why those of you who are in the yellow here, so Lake City to Folkston, Brunswick, Waycross, really all across southeast Georgia, and maybe some of you close to, say, Hilliard, Callahan, Yulee, Fernandina, won't rule out Nassau County either. With this amount of rain that we're expecting, I don't want to say it's too late now because we have the rain. People don't want to get outside. There's a little bit of a break though for some of you still in the southeast Georgia area. You need to make sure that your gutters are clear so the rain has somewhere to go so it doesn't start collecting. And if you live on a street that floods a lot, or you're near a creek that if it gets too much rain, we're not talking storm surge, but rainfall, and the creek could start to rise, make sure that you take your valuables like your car and you move them off that street that usually floods. You move everything to higher ground because 15 inches of rain possible, we will see some flooding, unfortunately. Well, and typically those first places that do flood, it's the small creeks, it's the small streams and things like that. So if you do happen to firstly live by any of those areas, or if you're just in a low-lying area that can typically flood just in a summer afternoon thunderstorm, you're going to be probably at the highest risk for some of that flooding here over about the next 2 to 3 days. Yeah, and again, and we do want to press home the point again, it's rainfall flooding. We're not talking storm surge. Yes, we have that low storm surge risk, but it's the rain. It's even, I wouldn't be surprised around downtown Jacksonville, San Marco areas, we see sometimes the rain can collect and cause streets to flood, and that risk just is exponentially higher. For which is why we have that high risk there for pretty much everyone from Lake City up through Folkston, Brunswick, Waycross, and then the whole way out towards the Valdosta area. And you mentioned earlier when we were talking that you're not even sure if they had the high risk for when Idalia came through last year. I'm trying to, and I'm sure at some point they had it, but it's rare. I just want people to know that it is rare to get a high risk from the WPC, at least here. We see a lot of marginal risks. Our random afternoon thunderstorms in summer will give you that level 1 out of 4 threat. And then if we're expecting more widespread storms, you'll sometimes get bumped up to that level 2. But we are at a level 4 out of 4. The Weather Prediction Center said we are giving you the highest risk of flooding possible, and that is why we are just asking everyone to take it seriously. It is a lot of rain that's on the way. So the rain, the flooding risk, obviously the biggest concern here. We've kind of touched on the winds a little bit. We've already seen wind gusts out towards Gainesville of 50 to 55, so that will continue to be a concern as Debby moves on shore tomorrow morning and continuing through the afternoon. And even the coastal areas still could see 35 to 40, 45 mile per hour wind gusts even. And I believe I saw it in passing walking over here, but I think the Marineland area already just clocked a stronger gust too. So already this evening, if they're seeing some of those gusts come in with the occasional passing bands, it's just going to get a bit stronger out there. And this will continue. It will. Now, the only thing that'll change really is going to be the wind direction a little bit here. Right. As the storm moves off to the northeast, you'll notice we go from southeast to more of a south-southwest, and then eventually those northwest winds wrap around by Tuesday afternoon and evening, and then continuing into Wednesday, but still very gusty. And what concerns me is, okay, so Tuesday night, 40 mile per hour wind gusts, Waycross or St. Simons. The amount of rain that they've already had, that saturated ground, we could start to see trees fall. The ground is way too saturated. Trees falling, be prepared for power outages at that point with that happening too. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, you're right, especially with how saturated the ground is, all that rain certainly won't make things that too difficult to start toppling over. So this is kind of the big takeaway here. If we can put it all into one graphic, this is kind of what we have put together here. So current track on here, making landfall somewhere in the Big Bend tomorrow at some point, likely after sunrise, maybe closer to about lunchtime tomorrow. The rain, all of the impacts, expect them from now through at least Tuesday afternoon and evening. Flooding risk is the biggest concern, I think 4 to 8, maybe even 6 to 8 locally for Jacksonville, but as we've mentioned,
Locally higher amounts certainly going to be possible, especially up in southeast Georgia.
Really concerning. And of course, yeah, those tornadoes too that we'll watch already had Union, Columbia, and Baker counties under tornado warnings. And so this is just the beginning. So we are going to be here through past midnight, and then we're changing out with meteorologists Lou Turner and Robert Speta. And the takeaway, we'll be back tomorrow. Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan will be back tomorrow. We are staying staffed throughout this entire event, at least through Tuesday. And hopefully it does not stall by Wednesday, and hopefully we'll be out of here. But if it stalls, we're here through the entire event for you.
And not just us, but the entire First Coast News team, all of our producers, our directors. We have multiple field crews out. You mentioned the one going to inspect the possible tornado down in Union County. We have another reporter up in Brunswick. So we're going to try to have you completely covered here throughout the duration of the storm. So anything else to add, Lee?
Just please stay safe and please stay alert, because the tornado threat continues overnight tonight while a lot of us are sleeping. And so I want people to be able to have ways to receive those alerts and set up your safe room now. So as we've talked about, a safe room is an interior room on the lowest level, can't be second floor, it has to be the ground level, and it has to be an interior room. So even if the bathroom doesn't have a window, if you would be able to put a window in, it doesn't count as that interior room. Set it up now. Have your helmet or a pillow, something to protect your head in that safe space, and then maybe your tablet, so then you could stream our coverage. Because if there's a tornado warning at midnight, we will be right here covering that for you. So please have a way to charge your devices now and then have the sound on so you would wake up and be able to get to a safe spot immediately and then tune into the coverage.
Yeah, so continue to watch us, ABC, NBC on First Coast News or on First Coast News Plus as well.
Which a lot of you are watching on right now. So thank you for streaming with us. You're doing everything right so far. And please stay tuned. We will be here. The whole weather team will be here through all of Debbie.
Take care.
This has been a First Coast News special report.